Ladies and gentlemen, hey, hi, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. As you can see, we've got our Season 5 patch notes now live, and we got plenty to go over here. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to get right into it. First things first, we do have new playlist rotations for the entire first half of the season before Season 5 Reloaded. It's a bit different this time though, because we have weekly standard playlists. We've got weekday rotations, so we're going to see updates every day, and then weekend playlists as well throughout the season. We'll break all these down in more detail at some point later on in the future, but very cool that we're going to see consistency. Always going to have plunder, always going to have Fortune's Keep, always going to have battle royale squad sizes in there. We obviously have a brand new battle pass. We'll be covering this once the update is out in full at 9 a.m. Pacific time, so stay tuned for that video. We'll be breaking down all 100 tiers of that. We do have a brand new event. It's the Last Stand community event where you can choose to either be a hero or a villain. Once the event is over, the winning team, either the heroes or the villains, their blueprint will be distributed to everyone. So we got that sort of going on. You can choose your side. Brand new Operation Last Call LTM, which is basically search and destroy, but in Caldera. It's a full map mode. Players all start with their loadouts. There is Resurgence respawn, but you can't ever get wiped, so it's a bit more casual. Oh, and it's also raining giant lava rocks as well, according to the patch notes here. And you can either choose to plant the bomb around the island, or you can choose to defuse the bomb and try and be the hero of Caldera. I think a lot of players are going to try and plant it because they don't like Caldera though. We also have some updates to Resurgence on Fortune's Keep, which is very exciting. The player count has been updated. So in solos, it's up 5 players to 50. In duos, it's up 4 players to 50. In trios, it's up 6 players to 51. And then in quads, it's up 12 players to 52. So the action on Fortune's Keep is about to get very, very spicy, right? Real quick, as we continue out through these patch notes, just want to remind you guys, if you are new to the channel, around 52% of viewers watching are not subbed yet, and every day I got you covered with everything going on in COD. News, updates, loadouts, tips, you'll find it all right here, so feel free to hit that sub button, and if you enjoyed this video, feel free to drop a like on it. Let's try and aim for 2,500 likes on this one. As far as the map updates go, we do have updates to Peak, which basically have it exploding as a volcano right now. It's erupting, so we've got lava flowing down all over the mountain, which you probably should not try and walk through or stand on. We also have some interior updates as well, so it's a bit more established throughout, despite the fact that there is volcanic activity going on. We got the Boiler Room Gulag, which is essentially going to be a remake of the prison showers from the OG Gulag that we had back on Verdansk, which is very exciting. So we got that going on. There's also a little bit of new weather and lighting on the map, and on Rebirth, we now have new lighting as well, like sort of the sunset lighting, which will be very interesting. I hope that doesn't allow skins to just blend in certain areas where there might be more shadows. We're gonna have to obviously try it out and see, but there is that going on. And then during some of the LTMs weekends for Rebirth, we're gonna have Rebirth After Dark, which is basically the whole Rebirth night mode, right? So that's pretty exciting as well. For bug fixes, they fixed collision issues with various elements across Caldera and Fortune's Keep. As always, you guys know the drill by now. We're constantly seeing this patch note. They fixed an issue that prevented the player from equipping armor plates after interacting with the buy station. That's been a big problem that I've seen a lot of you guys commenting about, so they did finally fix that. That's great news. Fixed an issue that caused the player to be unable to buy back a teammate when Hardline was equipped. Another big one that I've seen a lot of comments about. An issue that caused prestige levels to display incorrectly. An issue that caused some calling cards and emblems to be equipped, unequipped rather, automatically. Then also an issue that caused the out of bounds warning to get stuck on your screen in a pre-match lobby. And of course, they always have the Trello board going on, which we cover week by week. For gameplay, we've got the new Doomsday Station. The station can be activated for $10,000, causing an enemy AI helicopter to come and drop on your position. Rewards are lootable by any player, regardless of who activated it once it's complete. And once one station will appear per match with multiple spawn locations. A unique cosmetic watch will be rewarded to players who actually do the whole challenge here and complete it. So you got that going on. There's also the supply box UAV kill streak in the buy station, and this will basically highlight a series of different chests you can loot for 20 seconds, including a special one that is the UAV streak. Basically, activating more than 3 in a short amount of time will give you an advanced supply box UAV, resulting in a stronger effect. And you can get the various different colors, including a personal supply box, which ends up dropping your favorite loadouts weapons. Not the full attachments, not the perks or anything, just your preferred weapons on your selected favorite loadout. We also have the Rage Serum, which is going to be interesting. This is basically just for close quarters and movement. Once you take this is a field upgrade. It lasts for 40 seconds. It increases your movement speed, your melee weapon damage, your lunge distance, and your melee stun power. However, it does give you a louder presence, visible rage effects, stun and flash vulnerability, and it can be countered by battle hardened. So interesting little field upgrade that we've got going on there. Some big updates here. Airstrikes, they improved the danger UI notifications to be more consistent with where the airstrike is actually going. They also fixed an issue with the airstrike where it can actually hit you from behind when it wasn't designated to land in that area, but because of the sort of diagonal pattern that it has when it flies in, it would hit you in the back. So they've fixed that. They've also added a danger UI notification if you're too close to the airstrike or cluster when you're calling it in yourself. So that's very, very cool. And they'll continue to shoot through glass balconies and wall bang penetrable buildings. So dying inside of buildings is somewhat intentional if it's wall bangable, apparently. C4 is now going to appear horizontally rather than vertically, so you don't get it confused with the different perks on the ground. That's a nice update. A huge one, you can now manually equip the gas mask whenever you want. You have to go into your options in the menu and select you want to actually toggle the gas mask to manual, and then after you do that in game, if you pick one up, you can just go into your quick inventory down on the D-pad for controller and select to put it on there. For buy stations, the UAV streak has already been added in. That's what I talked about earlier. The loadout crate UI selection, this is another big one coming in season. They're going to basically reset it so that you can choose to have your favorite loadout always selected. Whatever one you choose in the pregame, when you go to your loadout in game, it'll automatically hover over that, or you can choose to have it placed back at the top every single time. Totally up to you. They also updated some plane respawn functionality. They will no longer respawn once they've been destroyed, but that does not change in plunder. There's a loud truck outside, always is when I'm recording. For perks on Serpentine, fire damage and explosive damage are no longer decreased, and players must be tack sprinting for Serpentine to be effective, but that change is arriving later on in the season. So Serpentine nerfs incoming. We got Summit launch, some more here in season. Battle hardened, stun and flash resistance increased to 80%, so that's a solid change. That'll make battle hardened a little more worth it. Now we get to the weapon changes here, and this is where things get very spicy. Unfortunately, the Clean Raven site has not been updated yet, but we do have a decent description for all of these that we can go through, which is nice and easy. So Vanguard marksman rifles all now have rifle ammunition, so those will be a little bit more consistent. You won't run out of ammo so easily. Variable scopes for Vanguard guns have also been adjusted. They now have glint on them, even if you're holding a rifle, I believe. Reduced recoil control and a worse ADS times. So this 3 to 6 times scope meta for Vanguard rifles and LMGs should be reduced a little bit, making the long range meta a little bit more competitive, which to me is fantastic news, honestly. Aggressive and heavy snipers will see a large reduction in flinch, essentially. Snipers are in a good spot, but they're not done yet. Combined with the above, we are expecting many valuable options. So they didn't describe what large reduction it is, but it's flinch. I was actually able to meet with Raven earlier on this week to talk about what was coming in the Season 5 updates, including some of these patch notes, and they mentioned that aggressive and heavy sniper rifle flinch is going to see a large reduction. So they got to add in a word there on the patch notes. The EX1, the EM1 also has some balancing for Warzone specifically. It's not going to be the same as it was in Vanguard, where it's very OP. Here it has limited ammo, not unlimited, has worse recoil and worse velocity in Warzone versus multiplayer as well. For new weapons, again, we have the EX1. We also have the R8-225. We'll be making videos on these later on this week, alongside the general meta update, and then also everything that you want to be using for the season for the top 10 loadouts. Now, for adjustments, the AS44 got a nerf. The max damage was decreased, so that TTK on that weapon not going to be as good as it was before. On the 615 barrel, the damage range was increased a little bit. The vertical control was also increased, though, so it'll be a little bit more consistent over range. And on the 12B custom, the initial firing recoil was increased and the movement speed penalty was decreased. The unquestioned strength of the AS44 was encroaching on the submachine gun class and is now, basically more of a rifle than it is an SMG hybrid. So max damage is obviously the close range damage, but for mid-range, AS44 is still looking like it could be the king. For assault rifle Charlie, this is going to be the bar. The Clouser 40 round mag capacity was increased to 50. That's a solid update for the bar for sure. The Cooper, on the compressed rounds, the recoil penalty has been increased, and on the 22-inch barrel, the main barrel, there's now worse horizontal control, so the Cooper's not going to be as much of a laser beam as it was before. On the KG-M40, the long-range damage was decreased by 2, and I think that pretty much evens out the KG. It already was somewhat weak over long range. That's going to hurt it a lot more, so I don't think the KG is going to be a top meta rifle anymore. The sprint to fire was also increased. On the shrouded barrel, it's got worse velocity now and worse control, so yeah, they're definitely toning down the KG to not really be a powerhouse anymore. On the 40-round mags, the muzzle velocity penalty was increased and the control was decreased, so it's going to be harder to use now. On the 60-round drums, movement speed scaler was decreased and the ADS penalty was increased. So all around, the meta build for the KG is taking some tough hits here. Then for the padded stock, the control was also decreased. Continue to climb out for the last round of adjustments, so we're hurting its long range and basically making it harder to use. I don't see the KG being all that efficient anymore. This is what I'm so excited for. Ted sort of previewed that the Grau is getting a buff. The max damage was increased by 1, so that's its close range damage. Its range was also increased by 40 units, and its neck multiplier was increased. So Grau got a buff all around. It's not going to make it broken OP, but the Grau is going to be better. And you guys know, if you've been around the channel for a bit, the Grau is my all-time favorite gun in Warzone, and I'm so glad that it got a buff here. Fantastic news. The Groza got a long range damage increased by 1. The Vargo ADS was actually sped up a little bit, so that's solid. And the 60-round mag ADS penalty was decreased a bit. So Vargo from Cold War got a slight buff. No surprise here, the Vargo S from Vanguard also got a slight buff here. The minimum damage was increased, so its long range damage and its multiplier for the neck was increased. The custom barrel here, damage range penalty removed, so that's solid. Sprint to fire was decreased though, and the 336 recoil penalty was decreased and sprint to fire was removed, so that'll be nice and fast. On the 298, vertical control penalty was decreased, so that'll be easier to use. On the 45-round drums, better capacity, same deal on the 30. And then on the 30-06-38, the rate of fire was increased, so you can have a crazy rate of fire on that one. Then finally on the custom SK2, the movement penalty was decreased. So all around, the Vargo is now going to be more aggressive in general and also a bit stronger, so Vargo might be a bit more competitive now. Assault Rifle Alpha, this is the STG on the 760 barrel, worse horizontal control and worse velocity, so that hurts the STG a little bit. Not as bad as the KG though, so the STG is still a little bit better. And on the 60-round drums, the ADS time scalar penalty was decreased a bit. For LMGs, on the UGM, the sustained recoil was adjusted. I still think this is going to be a top choice because it's just so strong and you can always adjust for recoil. On the Type 11, the shrouded barrel fire rate penalty was decreased and the horizontal control was increased. And on the 45-round mags, the muzzle velocity penalty was removed. Now for marksman rifles, Vanguard marksman rifles have been held back by the restriction of sniper ammo, so they fixed that. The flinch was also decreased on the marksman rifles, so they're going to be easier to use. The SVT time to ADS decreased a little bit, so it's going to be faster to ADS. For the precision barrel, ADS time penalty increased a little bit though. On the 15-round mag, the damage penalty was increased, the ADS time was decreased, and the control is now way worse. So that 15-round mag's not going to be doing you much good. Then on the 20-round mag, damage penalty was increased. The rate of fire bonus was decreased a bit, so it won't have that crazy fire rate. The ADS time is faster though, and the recoil control is now a lot worse as well. On the M1 Grand, better velocity in general. On the 12-round clip, the capacity is increased and the recoil was decreased, or the control rather was decreased, so it'll be harder to shoot. 20-round drum, better capacity, worse fire rate though, worse movement speed, and worse recoil control. 16-round mag, better capacity. 20-round drum, better capacity. We can also zoom in here. I should have done this a while ago. My B. And movement speed penalty was increased a little bit. On the G43, max damage, so long range damage and close range damage here for min and max were increased, so the G43 will be a bit stronger. Precision barrel, slightly better ADS time. And then for the rapid barrel, a recoil recovery is now better a bit. Fully auto barrel, vertical control is better. Horizontal recoil penalty was decreased too, so that'll be easier to use. Then on the Clouser 20-round mag, better capacity, and ADS time was changed as well. Then on the M1916, we had changes to the ADS time, so it's faster now. Custom barrel, better recoil recovery, and on the Sakura 20-round mag, rate of fire was changed a bit there. The crossbow, lower torso damage multiplier was decreased, and same deal with the upper and lower extremity damage multipliers. So the Modern Warfare crossbow did indeed receive a nerf in this update, surprisingly. For melees, the combat shield movement speed scaler was decreased. On the scythe, the melee damage was increased by 5. That won't be anything too crazy. The attack speed was increased. I believe that makes it a 2-hit kill though in core rather than a 3, so that could be potentially solid. Attack speed was increased by 20%, and the interrupt time was decreased a bit, so it'll be more aggressive now for you melee fans out there. Dual Kodachis, the standing and crouching melee range was decreased, the prone melee range was decreased, and the angle to lunge was actually increased. Then we get to some of the handguns here. The Clouser 170 barrel damage range increased. All control penalties were decreased as well, and so is the movement speed penalty, so that's now more aggressive. On the 200mm, better velocity, faster ADS time, movement speed penalty also better, and then ADS movement speed also better. Then on the 12-round mags, better capacity, and the rate of fire was decreased. Sniper rifles, Snipers have climbed almost to an ideal healthy use rate. For the first time, we're seeing a good spread. So this is the flinch decrease on all heavy snipers. That's 11%, and on all light snipers, it's 40%. That's pretty significant. Now on the Tundra, the damage range was increased a little bit, so that a one hit at up to that range. The upper torso and lower torso multipliers were increased. Same deal with the extremities, and the ADS transition is now a little bit faster, so that's solid. For the Type 99 on the sniper barrel, we got a better neck multiplier now. The upper torso multiplier was decreased, and the sprint to fire penalty is now a little bit better and a little bit more forgiving. On the 3-line, the 20 round mags damage bonus was decreased, and the rate of fire penalty was decreased as well. So some slight changes to the meta magazine there. Shotguns got a change here. The combat shotgun head multiplier and neck locational multiplier were actually decreased, so that's a slight nerf. On the 5-round tube, the locational damage multipliers were decreased, and on a sawed-off barrel, the damage range penalty was increased, so that's worse now, and the bonus damage was actually decreased. So nerfs to the combat shotgun in general. For SMGs, we're making some adjustments to widen the close range meta. It looks like I was correct with my assumptions earlier on last week. The Armaguerra ADS movement speed scale was actually decreased, so it'll be slower in ADS. For the 550 barrel, worse control all around. For the short barrel, vertical control penalty was increased, so that'll have more vertical control, or vertical recoil rather. On the 570 barrel, the headshot multiplier was decreased even more. The muzzle velocity was decreased, and the horizontal control is now even worse. On the 72 round mags, worse velocity, and the damage range bonus was removed, so that is what it is. On the 9mm60, which is like the main magazine that I prefer, the movement speed penalty was increased, so it'll be slower now, and the ADS penalty was increased, so that'll also be slower. And on the skeletal stock, the initial recoil control was decreased a bit, and the sustained recoil penalty was increased. So worse control on the skeletal, that's going to hurt the meta build a little bit as well. On the Marco, the max damage, mid damage, and mid damage range were all adjusted. The max and mid damage, so close range and long range damage, were decreased, so the overall damage on the Marco now worse. The mid range was actually increased, though it's medium range by 5 meters, so it'll be 5 meters before that initial drop off there. On the 342 barrel, worse velocity and worse control now. On the Lesto barrel, which I don't think many players used, vertical recoil penalty increased, so worse recoil there. Then also the horizontal control was decreased. So all around, we're seeing some slight changes to the Lesto barrel, and the Marco won't hit as hard as before. On the Blixen, on the F3 barrel, the control is now worse, but that's 30%. It's still pretty solid, honestly, for close range. And on the 54 round mags, there is now no headshot multiplier. That does really affect the 54 round mags quite a bit. The upper torso, though, was increased, the multiplier for that. We got movement speed scale decreased, and then also the ADS time scalar penalty decreased. So some slight changes to make that less aggressive and less strong, actually. So Blixen, Marco, and Arma all saw some nerfs. The UGR mag capacity was increased by 5, so that's kind of solid, makes that a bit more competitive. And the magazine capacity on the explosive rounds is now 50. UGR could be an option here in Season 5 now for sure. The Fennec got a neck multiplier increase, a significant amount actually, and the leg and foot multiplier was also increased. So Fennec making the rounds as well. This could be pretty solid. On the Thompson from Vanguard, the rate of fire was decreased on the Chariot 2.5. Also, the vertical recoil penalty was decreased. So not as fast firing, but not as hard to use. On the 5.5, the close range damage was increased. On the 50 round drums, the damage range was decreased, and the vertical penalty for control was decreased, so easier to use but worse range. And on the 100 round drums, basically the same deal. On the PPSH, on the 300mm barrel, the hip fire accuracy penalty was decreased, and the range was actually increased, so that makes the PPSH better for sniper support. On the Nambu 71 round mags, damage penalty removed. That is huge. Damage range penalty increased though, so worse range but no damage penalty. That's solid. Nambu rounds might be the way to go now. And then on the folding stock, recoil recovery was increased. SMG Bravo, I want to say this is the Bison? Medium range damage, medium range range, and then also the long range damage also all increased here. The medium range was actually decreased by a few meters. So SMG Bravo gonna be a little bit stronger, and the Striker caught a buff as well. Neck multiplier increase and upper torso multiplier increase. The Striker probably still not gonna be all that good, but it did receive a slight buff. We also have some attachment changes here before we round things out, so quite a bit to break down. I'm trying to make it as fast as possible. MX silencer, worse recoil now, worse velocity, and the worse damage range now. So MX will not be as dominant as it was before. On the M1928 silencer, worse control, worse velocity, worse range as well. Mercury silencer, worse horizontal control. For scopes on the 3-6, sniper glints enabled, control is now decreased by 4%. Flinch has been decreased, and then there's also an ADS penalty of an extra 6% on assault rifles. And on the 4-8, we got the same changes, just in different values here. For gun perks, tight grip, the sustained recoil decreased by 1%. Now, of course, we've got new operators as well coming throughout the season. We have Menendez, we've got Rourke, we've got Seraph, we've got Al-Assad. Then lastly, we got the download sizes here. On PlayStation, it's going to be 10 gigs, on Xbox 9.9, on PC 12.6 if you're only for Warzone, 13.4 if you got Warzone and Modern Warfare. All that being said, though, those are all the changes in these patch notes, some lengthy ones with a lot of weapon changes. We'll be breaking down all of that later on this week with various different videos, so stay tuned for those. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel with noties turned on, and if you guys enjoyed the video, let me know by dropping a like on it. That's gonna wrap things up. Thank you so much for tuning in, and until next time, take it easy, have an awesome rest of your day, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace out.